Brothers and sisters, Mrs. and Mr. Dented Cans and football fans, today we are here live coming to you from cyberspace. He's Max, I am Dobie. We're the Dented Cans going through the alphabet, peeling the onion of pain in life to make yours and ours a little bit better. Today, what letter are we up to, Max?
Letter E. We could go a couple of different ways with this, but how are we going today?
Today, we're going to talk about empathy.
All right, that's all we have. We have no empathy.
That's it.
All right, so hey, thanks very much.
In Scrabble, that's 46 points. E-M-P-A-T-H-Y. 7-letter words, that's 50 points.
Nice.
Empathy is being able to put yourself and your experience in the head of someone else, someone that does you damage, someone that caused you pain, maybe your parents, your spouse, whoever it is, your siblings who you're at war with, or whoever in your life is giving you problems. And I think a lot of times, and I am guilty of this myself, we only think about ourselves and our pain and what hurt us, and a lot of times it came from childhood, and there's nothing we can do about it, and we have no idea to back off and see the bigger picture. When I was a kid, step-parents are going to be a big deal, and it just comes to my mind. I had a stepmother that I prayed for her slow and painful death, and I'm shameful to admit that now. I hated her, and the H word, hate, that's the only swear word. You could tell me all the swear words you want to, don't flinch. Hate, that makes me flinch. I don't want to hate anybody. That's a negative connotation. I don't want it at all. I hated her as a kid, and I'm ashamed of that. And I didn't have empathy. I look back at it now, and I see what she went through with my evil father, and she was a dented can herself, and how she reacted was totally normal, how a human being would react in such a neurotic, dysfunctional, horrible situation that we were all in at the time and didn't realize it. So I think you have empathy, and you've grown in your existence, and I do too. And I think to put it out there as something that we can all choose to do is a positive. Do you agree?
I do agree. I think that when you're raging, when you're angry with somebody, empathy's gone. Love for sure is gone. You don't have love for your brother when you're angry at somebody, because you couldn't. If you truly love them for what love is, and that will be our L word. Yeah. You can't. You can't. So having empathy for somebody that hurt you is, that's the work of somebody who's emotionally evolved, somebody who's very emotionally intelligent. Because reactors don't, someone who reacts like you react or I react with unbelievable speed and accuracy. We have convicted the person that pissed us off completely. We're not using any empathy in that accusation. No trial. You're going right to hell.
Death chamber.
That's right. And you're done. And we have done that right. It's all over with.
Yep.
Okay. And so if empathy was part of the equation, if we could train our brain somehow, some way, and I know that you could come up with examples now in our older age, as we're middle age, looking back at this, I know you can come up with examples of where you did show some empathy. You did on a few episodes ago where you broke down and talked about the time when we were talking about bullies in B.
Paul Ritter.
But that was empathy even today. You're having empathy for him and how he must have felt.
I had it 30 seconds after I did it.
Right.
It was a stupid kid thing to do, and I realized it.
Right.
And I said it out loud, but the pain is still there.
Right. And if you didn't get to see that episode, go back and watch it, because it's worth it.
Bullying.
Trust me. That's worth it to go see that and spend some time with that. But the empathy is, going back to where we started hurting as kids. Do you have empathy for Russ, your father? Can you find it somewhere in your heart?
I have empathy. I do not have sympathy.
Okay.
Because we hear that. We did the best we can. Two words: bullshit. Maybe that's one word. Maybe there's a hyphen in there. Wrong. And is that true that they did the best we can? It's a mechanism that goes off in their head. You kids didn't come with a manual. Did you ever hear that one?
Yes, and as a parent, I've even used that. But even recently with my adult kids, who are, at the time of this taping, they're 25 and 22, son and a daughter. I've told them even recently, even the last couple of months, I didn't do the best that I could. Your mother, on the other hand, my wife, who's still my wife at the time of this taping, hopefully she is forever.
Hopefully she will be.
But she did in a lot of respects, because she dealt with kids all the time with empathy, but with love first. And she really did that. You know, I mean, I witnessed it, having not witnessed it as, you know, growing up. But I did not do the best that I could. I did not do the best that I could. And the parents that say that, I've heard that come out of my parents' mouths too. It's like, you know, I don't want to challenge them, because in that moment, my dad's dead, but in that moment, then it's a confrontation. Okay. Mm-hmm. So where I've graduated to now is I just let it go, because it's, you know, I know in my head the answer.
That is a hell of a graduation, being able to get a spot in your head where you can say, I let it go.
Well, why not?
No,
that's having empathy.
No, I understand that, but a lot of people don't, and I couldn't for years, because I think we're all selfish little kids in a way that you think, boy, well, I'm the most important person in existence, and I'm hurting, so everybody else should be hurting too until I feel better.
Right.
Well, 2 words, shit, bull.
Yeah.
Reversed.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, exactly right. And I don't think anybody sets out to hurt somebody else. I really don't. I don't believe that. Unless they are a sociopath by the true definition, not just a branding of somebody who's upset with them, but if they truly don't have the ability to have empathy, and there are those in our society, you know, you had one here that used to like to eat people here in Wisconsin quite a few years ago.
You know, that's the one thing, Max. I was on the radio when Mr. Dahmer did his thing.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to be a somewhat semi-famous known comedian since 1985.
Right.
That's a long time.
It is.
Jeffrey Dahmer was not the first person to kill people. He was not the first person to eat people. But he did it in a way where he had worldwide fame overnight.
Right.
And no one knows who I am, and you're probably fans of this broadcast, and you don't know who either one of us are. Those 2 idiots who whine and moan and piss, those wimps that open them up. You know, hopefully we're touching some people, but I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah.
We're sitting here in a room talking, but I know we're touching somebody. Someone's going to see this.
Yeah. Well, my point with that was no empathy, clearly, right?
Jeffrey Dahmer had no empathy?
He was an animal. I mean, he was like, you know, a sociopath.
You don't think he was a dented can? Did you ever see an interview with his father?
You know, yeah.
I'm not defending
I was just going
to
say, because in my mind, what he did was indefensible. I think
couldn't agree more.
I think it was absolute evil, is what I think it was. Mm-hmm. You know, and I think that's a whole different level. You know, maybe that could be another E word that we could talk about when we come back through sometime. But no, he wasn't capable of empathy. So, and you know, I guess that's where I put a fence around my ability to offer empathy. I'm not empathetic toward Jeffrey Dahmer. I'm just not. I don't know why. I just other than I don't have any empathy for evil. For me personally, I don't.
I don't know how to answer that, because I'm not saying you're wrong, and I'm not saying I'm right, but I do have empathy for Jeffrey Dahmer. I watched a special, and I guess because it's a hometown thing. You know, I remember our woman, Debbie Dalton, who was a wonderful, funny, sweetheart of a person. She's our news person at the time, and she came in. We went on the air at 6 o'clock in the morning. 5 minutes to 6, she came in, and she said, there's a national news story breaking that they found a boxes of body parts a mile from here. It's on the national news story. And we looked at each other. We're supposed to be the burp and fart happy guy morning show.
Right.
And we went on the air, and she said that story, and we said, look, we don't know where this is going, but we're not going to make jokes about this. We don't know. And anybody that was alive at that time, that was a worldwide story that broke over the course of several days. And it was just surreal. You don't think about that. And then they had an interview with him on, I don't know, it's one of the shows. You can probably see it on YouTube somewhere. And I felt badly for him, because they talked about his father, and they interviewed his father, and he was an idiot, the father, and left him alone. And I'm not saying it was right what he did, and I'm not saying it's an excuse, but I can kind of see the reason. I don't defend it. And
I get what you're saying.
Innocent families that lost children.
Yeah.
You know, so my point is the ripple effect happens, so the damage leads to anger or hurt or whatever it leads, and he reacted in a way that was indefensible, number one, but non-changeable. We can have reconciliation with people. He took it way to another level. Deserved to be in jail and didn't live very long.
That
can was crushed. That was not a dented can. That was run over by a steamroller.
Yeah. So I guess where empathy comes in, when you think about somebody who has wronged you, you really have to think about, are you responding to who that person really is, or are you responding to how that person treated you?
Both. And I think the main thing is how that person treated you at that time.
Okay. And so are you able to realize that nobody stays that way the whole time? So they're not that way, not you particularly, but anyone. Is anyone able to realize that, an incident where they hurt you, they're not that person all the time? So like when your dad was being abusive, he wasn't that same person when he was holding a hymnal at church and he was Brother Russ. You see what I'm saying?
Brother Russ was a character that he played, I believe.
Okay.
I never called him Dad, even when I was a little kid. Hi, Russ. Call me Dad. Hi, Russ. I couldn't do it. I don't know why. Never did. And I think that he had so many examples of the evil, dark side that was once as an accident, two as a trend. There was 400 examples there. And I think you can let people go. Have you ever had an example of where you treated someone off badly the first time? And now, if you came to me or anybody came to me, said, you were a bleeping bleep. Max, I'm sorry, man. I didn't realize it. Thanks for pointing it out to me. I'm truly sorry. I'll never do it again. And I will just go out of my way to never do it again. And I think there was quick example. I was at radio in Salt Lake City, Utah, and Mr. Morning Show, and it's a very closed community. And nothing wrong with LDS, Mormons. They're very nice people, but like anybody else, they're their own community. And it's hard to break in. I had a lot of people say, it took me a while to warm up to you, and you're not one of us. But they're very warm and nice people once you get to know them. And our news woman on the show was married to the producer of the Fox in the Morning show. This has a point. And every time a guest would fall out at the last minute, send Dobie over and get him a haircut, put him in some clothes, do some kind of thing, fashion makeover. So I was their go-to last-minute guest. So one day, she calls me up at night and said, look, our guest canceled for tomorrow. I lived right near a mall in Salt Lake City. I want you to go over to the mall and get some clothes on loan for you. You have to put it on your credit card because we can't get it on there. It's late at night. And we'll reimburse you, blah, blah, blah. Got the clothes. It was like $300. I would never buy these clothes. They were funky, whatever. So I went on the show, did it. They gave me a makeover, wore the clothes, ha, ha, ha. Took it back after the show and dropped them off at the mall. Oh, we can't take these back. Why not? They've been worn. Well, I know. Yeah, I wore them for 30 seconds on TV this morning. I mean, no, we can't take them back. Well, I don't want to spend $300 for. Well, I'm sorry, that's the rules. So can I talk to the manager? Can I talk to the manager? Trying to be nice. I mean, 20 minutes ago, can I talk to the? So finally, the president of the store came out. And I got to the point where it had been about probably 45 minutes. I was tired. I lost my temper, and I flipped out at this person. And sometimes the tongue can be the most dangerous weapon, worse than any nunchucks or baseball bat or anything like that.
All the time. Yeah.
I sliced and diced her like a Vegematic up and down. I went after her maladies, just like my father taught me in his weird, wacky way. And I made the whole room full of bang, bang, bang. You're an idiot. I'm right. Give me my refund, which they did. And I walked out thinking, well, I won. The next day when I got to work, I got an email. Dear Mr. Radio Guy, I was at the store yesterday, and I have no idea what you look like, but I know your voice because I listen to you every morning. And I think you were such a nice guy until yesterday when you cussed out those people right in front of everybody. And what are the chances that a listener would be in that store? And I was nice for 45 minutes until I really slipped, and I was probably 3 minutes or less of boom, 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 boom. And those people thought I was Satan when I walked out of there. And I went on the air and I read that email. And I said, everything this person said is absolutely correct. And I said, she didn't see what it took for me to get to that point. I'm human. I'm not proud of what I did. I claim it. I'm very sorry. She said she's never going to listen again. Maybe she won't. And I deserve that. I don't claim to be perfect. And we have calls, oh, that's okay. No, I'm not looking for you. I was wrong. It took a long time to get to that wrong, and that was one example of it. I think some people go out and they're either good a major part of the time, or they're bad a major part of the time. And when they're bad and they're painful and they're hurtful, it's hard to have empathy when they show a pattern.
Did you, in your empathy discovery, write a letter of apology to the lady that you berated?
Absolutely did.
Did you?
Oh, absolutely did. And I said, I know it doesn't mean anything, and I know I was bad, and you caught me in a bad. None of those are excuses. They're not. I was in a bad place at that moment when you came, and you're the president or whatever of the store, and you probably get that every day. By the time the flames are raging in the fire is when you have to come in. So you earn every penny that you make. And I think I sent her whatever I had, I don't know, concert tickets or something from the station. I said, I don't know if you're a listener. I'm not doing this for radio purposes. I'm doing this for human purposes. I was wrong. And that's, I think, another thing that a lot of people have to learn, behavior, and that's empathy, is being able to admit you're wrong. If you're old enough, do you remember the show Happy Days? I know you do.
Of course I do.
But a lot of people might be younger Dented Cans. Dented Cans are of all ages. You might not remember Happy Days, but Fonzie was one of the main characters, was the main character after a while. And it got to be a running gag. He would try to, he couldn't say I was wrong.
Right.
Because he was the tough guy, Fonzie, and that was part of his character. And
it was cool. Hey.
He was cool. Hey, whoa. And he was really cool back then. And it was funny, but I really think a lot of people are Fonzies. They can't admit they are wrong. I never heard my father once say, you know what? God, I screwed up. That was not about anything.
My dad didn't either. And, he used the line from the Frank Sinatra, regrets, I have a few, but then again, too few to mention. And he made that his credo. I mean,
sure.
For him, that was even at his funeral next to his casket. It didn't say, regrets, I have a few, then again, too few to mention Frank Sinatra. It said his name. So,
He did it his way.
He did it his way. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So, I think it's critical if you are a dented can, which we're assuming that you are if you're watching.
You wouldn't be into this deep if you're not.
I think it's critical to truly practice empathy on a daily basis. Truly practice empathy. It's so hard. So when you're ready to throw the book, like if you're standing in a department store returning clothes that really were used, that really you did take out of the store, that really they shouldn't have taken back, probably on some level based on whatever their policies are.
Well, thank you, Johnny Cochran, for cross-examining that case and making me feel like a bigger possum's pecker than I already do. And
No,
yes, that's funny.
I'm trying to have empathy. So.
No, it's very funny, and you're thinking about it, and really to really have true empathy. Now we're joking about it, but this is no joke.
Yeah.
To take the emotions out of it.
Right.
What you just said was absolutely correct. And I did it as a favor. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Any of that. They don't know that.
They don't know that.
They don't care that.
Well, I don't know what the minimum wage was at the time.
I don't know.
But the first person you talked to was like, they probably had a meeting that morning that said, hey, anything that's used, don't take it back.
Right.
We can't sell used stuff.
And you're right about that again. And what I wanted to do, I pride myself in having empathy. My grandfather told me when I was a kid, everybody should have a service job at one time or another in their life, a waitress, a clerk, store clerk, and so you can never treat those people badly because they work really hard for not a lot of money.
Right.
And I knew that going in. I was nice to that woman, and she just would not say yes. So I asked politely, may I please talk to somebody else? Talk to somebody else, went up the nothing. So finally, I worked all the way up. It took a long time before I blew. The bubbling volcanic acid was in there, and it did blow. And it's very rare when I get to that point, but it does happen. And what are the chances that listener was in the store?
I agree.
I deserved it. I deserved that as a lesson. She doesn't remember it now. This is years later. I'm remembering enough to talk about that story. I still feel bad about it. If I could, and that lady, and again, who did I hurt? Okay, I hurt at least the people that I verbally tongue lashed. I'm not proud of what I said, but I know how to do it with the best of them. And that was being a bully. I was. I had way more mental capacity from years on stage as a comedian. They're working at a store to try to make a job to pay their bills. You know what I'm saying? So I was wrong there. Then the person that was in authority, and she did handle it pretty good. I could tell she wasn't happy about it, but she did give me my credit back, and I walked out of there and blah, blah, blah. And for about 5 seconds, I felt, well, I showed you. And I feel like the bigger pile of steaming shit that I wish I would have just eaten. It was like $300.
Right.
I wish I would have
Which
eaten
at the
money.
time was a lot of money, and you weren't making a lot of money.
No,
so,
I was
yeah.
making the money, and I had a
Yeah.
comedy going out there, and I was making my own house, and I was doing pretty well.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have worn those goofy looking clothes. I should have given them to somebody who did whatever. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. A lot of times we have woulda, coulda, shouldas in our life, and we don't have the opportunity to go back. So use a little bit of empathy, and not saying you have to be a wimp, not saying anything, but think it ain't illegal yet. That comes from my buddy George Clinton, and that's so true. So that's probably an overstated example, but it's totally true. That really happened, and you have them. We all have them.
Well, we'll go ahead and close empathy out. You're making me think of one, and
Tell it.
well, in my radio days in Wisconsin, here in Wisconsin, would have been in the early '90s. We were at a remote. So a remote for radio people equals opportunity to make more money to hand out Frisbees. So or
You're
whatever.
at a car dealer in a
Yeah,
mall,
whatever
or a
you're
store,
doing, yeah.
or somewhere.
Grocery
Yeah.
store. So
Grocery store, yes.
We were doing a remote for, and now I feel really bad, and this isn't going to end happy, so we'll have to pick something else to end happy on, Dobie. But this lady came up to me. We were doing a remote for some brand of frozen pizza. I can't remember what it was, in a giant grocery store. I think it was like Mega Foods or something. Mm-hmm. So we're standing there, and she said, came up with her cart, and she said, I don't like your station. You don't play music that I like. And I said, she was very overweight, and I said, well, I don't like fat people. Just like that. And
This wasn't on the air, was it?
no, but holy cow, where'd that come from?
Yeah.
You know? Now, I wouldn't even think of saying something like that. I looked her right in the eyes and said, well, I don't like fat people. Because in my mind, I was justified. You know, the other person that worked at the station at the time was just like in shock. That, you know,
No, I guess, sorry. In an evil way.
Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, so I was trying to repay because she took me on. You know, she's like, she didn't need to say that, but see,
She poked the tiger.
she poked the tiger. But see, when you have empathy, even in those instances, you don't need to respond at all.
That's being mature. It's being an adult,
Which I wasn't.
which a lot of us aren't.
Yeah, and you don't need to respond. You
How
can
did she
say,
react?
Huh?
How did she react?
She just was shocked. You should have seen the look on her face. I mean, clearly she didn't know she was fat. I don't know. But, I mean, she was really fat. I mean, really big.
How fat was she?
Yeah. so you know, and that's not a good thing because people, you know, I wouldn't think of saying that now because now I wouldn't even care, you know? Because, I mean, look at me. I'm no freaking Brad Pitt, for God's sake, you know? So who cares what someone looks like? At the time, I was trying to go for, like, what you said about your dad. He'd go for the malady or the weakness.
Boy, that's
and
sure very effective.
And at the time,
Not
I mean,
nice.
I mean, it was literally within 3 seconds of her getting out. I don't like your station.
You don't remember this, but we had a situation that was similar when we worked together in Chicago
Okay.
at a major rock station. We did our first remote.
Okay.
You might not remember this. Maybe you weren't around. We had another person on our trio, the Morning Blank guys. I
Right.
can't say the brand name. And this guy came up, and he was obviously a blue-collar guy who was a fan of the station before we got there. In radio, when you're a new entity, there's always a honeymoon period where people hate you because you're not the last people.
Right.
Even if the last people were terrible, that's who they know. You're the new guy.
Sure.
And you have to break in.
That's why we like our YouTube channel with only 2 viewers. That's okay.
That's
no
it.
one can take it away.
That's it. Exactly right. So somebody came up, and I'll never forget, and he was a large man, and he said, "You guys talk too fucking much." That's what he said. And you remember this? I looked back and said, "You eat too fucking much." Anything else? Same basic thing that you had.
Right.
And I'd never say that now. And
No.
we were the new guys.
No.
And it's like I had no business saying that. And he
Yeah.
he didn't know what to say, and he turned around and walked away.
Right.
And I feel bad about it, and part of me laughs about it, having the balls to say
Yeah,
that
yeah.
and what you said.
Well, you know, I look back now, and I hope that lady is happy and healthy and
They're probably
okay.
married to each other.
Yeah. well, you know, I look back now. It doesn't even matter what she said. She's entitled to her opinion, right? And that's something that when you don't have empathy, you don't take into consideration.
Yeah.
You don't.
No,
you just,
no,
you just condemn people. And when you're a dented can or an angry person, that's your go-to response. It has been since you've been a little kid.
Did you program that radio station? Did you have one thing to say?
Yeah.
Okay, then I was wrong. You didn't like your station?
No, I was a program director and the morning show host.
Okay.
So yeah. I mean, she was cutting into my whole existence.
So it was a personal attack.
Yeah, it was a personal attack, but it really wasn't. It really wasn't. She was only saying
her opinion.
It was her opinion. She didn't like the music on our station. So what?
Well,
I could have said, hey, it's
buy
not
a
for
CD
everybody.
player.
Now I would say, I was like, you know what? I don't either, but man, it pays good. So what are you doing here today? What would have been the harm with that?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
There's training and there's choices, and all the topics we're talking about are interacted. And we're not perfect. We don't claim to be perfect. We don't want to be bitter. We're getting better. And we're doing it one episode at a time, and we're doing it one day at a time. We are the Dented Cans. He's Max. I'm Dobie. I love him. I love you. Please come back. We've got a lot more to say.